welcome. Glad you're all here. Took me a second to log in there. Hello, everybody. Glad that you're here for our next art lesson. We're just going to get people signed in. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're here. This is the, I think, 5th time that we've done our live art lesson. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Lomans. Hi, Evie. Hi, Sloan. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Duffy's. Welcome. Just reading all the comments, getting real close. All those close-ups of me. Hello, like this, because I can't see, because I can't read all the small things. Hi, Isabel. Hi, Olivia. Hi, everybody. Hi, Tommy and Isabel, other Isabel. Yes, Sarah, I've been playing my guitar. Have you been playing your guitar? Doing good, Sienna. Good to see you. Also, Sienna, I read the parchment paper joke from last week. Hilarious. This time, guys, I'm going to be watching the clock better. Our first few lessons, I did great without actually watching the clock, just having my sidekick, Mia, tell me what our time is like. And last time, Instagram, because I'm so long-winded. Hi, Emma. Hi, Eglins. Apparently, I miss you too. Instagram thought I was long-winded and cut me off at the very end. We had so many people on, and then, almost 200 people, and then it cut off at the very end. But luckily, most of the lesson was really completed. So, really quickly, before we start, I want to show you a couple things for next week because I want to make some clay and I want to make some paints next week. So some things that we'll need for that are mostly things you have in your house, but I'm going to tell you a couple other things. One is if someone goes to the store at all, buy the spices, cream of tartar. If you don't get cream of tartar, you can still make the clay with us next week, but this works really well. But if you don't have it, you'll just add more salt, okay? So it doesn't matter if you don't have it, but if someone does happen to go to the store and if they can go in the spice aisle and pick up some cream of tartar. I know most people don't have this in their class because I'm obviously an artsy person and I also love cooking and baking. I've never heard of this in my entire life until I started finding things that you might have at home for all of these e-learning experiences that we're having. Hi, Sam. Hi, who else we got there? I know I kept going back to getting kicked off. Yes, I apologize for that. Hi, Caroline. I apparently just talk a lot. You guys know me. You know I talk a lot. So anyway, if you can get some cream of tartar, that's great. If not, you'll just add more salt next week. But I wanted to show you this just in case. So cream of tartar, make a little note, okay? Hi, Joey. My goodness. Hi, Anna. Hi, Steven. Okay, now another thing is salt, flour. Just these are cooking kind of salts and flour. And vegetable oil. And then food coloring or, hi, Tedeschi's. Miss you guys. And also, or liquid watercolor. And we're going to use some liquid watercolor today. I had a lot of people ask me, what is liquid watercolor? I had emails, texts, I had messages in my DM, all sorts of stuff. What is this liquid watercolor, Ms.A? So, if you don't have liquid watercolor, well, first of all, let me show you what liquid watercolor is. Liquid watercolor actually is watercolor that comes concentrated in a bottle like this. Most people don't just have this on hand. But last week I did show you that you can take old markers and with a pair of pliers, you can go ahead and if you had a marker, go ahead and pull the old felt tip out and stick that into a little jar or a little glass of water. Also, and that's going to make a liquid watercolor. Do you see how it turned green? This one I could not get the piece of felt out, so I just stuck that whole marker just right in that jar. So I'm making some liquid watercolor. So that's one way. Another one, I did just some water with some liquid food coloring. Food coloring, those little, like when you make your milk green for St. Patty's, or you're dyeing your Easter eggs, something like this, or your frosting for your cupcakes, anything like that, I just added some red food coloring in with some water, and I also made liquid watercolor. So you can make it at home as well. Obviously, I don't expect most people to have the actual real liquid watercolor, but you can make your own. And that's today what we're going to use that. If you don't have it, you can still use just color crayons, colored pencil, marker to get the same kind of effect. Even watercolor and flick it, because today we're going to make some graffiti. We're going to do some street art. And some of us, a lot of us live in Chicago, and we see graffiti and tagging and street art all over the place. But it used to be really considered vandalism. And then some cool creative artists, creative people started, really making some beautiful pieces of art. So now it is actually considered a style of art. And we're going to talk about different fonts, different type of lettering, and how you can, I'm going to show you how to do block letters. I'm going to show you how to do bubble letters. Some of you are going to get really fancy and do some really cool lettering in your own fonts, and may find out that is your calling, people. Who knows? Okay. So if you don't have liquid watercolor, you can either start pulling out some markers now and stick them in some water, or you can do that part of the lesson later and add it for that kind of spray paint graffiti look. And today for our materials, you needed white paper and markers. If you have just those two things, you're going to be good to do the lesson with us, and then you can add the liquid watercolor later for that kind of graffiti urban street art effect. Now, I also said pump spray bottles, old reused ones. And a lot of people also emailed me and DM'd me about what is a reusable pump spray bottle. So it just means something that's not aerosol. So this was like my facial aloe rose water spray water. And it was empty. So what I did is I put some liquid watercolor with a little water in here. Now, if you made it yourself with either markers like I did here, or if you made it with food coloring, you're not going to need to add water to it. I added some water to this one because I actually used a fluorescent liquid watercolor, and it's a concentrate. So that means it's super dense, and I just added a little water in there. But if you made it yourself, you do not even need to add water. You're just going to pour it into a pump bottle like this, okay? It's the kind that you can bring on an airplane, not the spray aerosol kind, but a pump one. And I made a few different ones. Like this is also like a makeup setter, but it was empty. And I filled this up with some liquid watercolor. And then this one was something for my hair. And it was empty, so I used it. So this is what I mean. Just a regular, I don't want to spray it because the color actually will go all over my art room, which is okay since I'm in my own little art space here over at Ms.A.'s quarters. Some of you have actually even been in my art room. But today we are going to use those. If you don't have it, do not fret. You are completely be able to go along and still do the rest of the lesson with us. And if at some point you want to add that spray kind of cool effect, you can. All right. So really quickly, let me show you. Now, these are just Xerox kind of copies that I printed from my printer of some different kinds of lettering and fonts. So a lot of you love drawing cool lettering and stuff like that. Some of you always ask me, can I write my last name? Can I write it in cursive too? Of course you can, because you like lettering. That's fun. And artists use lettering in all different ways, but graffiti artists definitely use it to send a message, and it's on the street. It's usually on buildings or on a sidewalk. And this is an example right here that I did of I printed this. If you go ahead and Google graffiti lettering and go to images, you can find all different kinds of cool fonts that you can kind of use as a reference. And I see someone saying, Nathan saying, I don't have a pump bottle. That's okay, Nathan. Don't worry. You can still follow along, do the rest in marker. You can also even flick watercolor right on top if you want from your paintbrush and get still a similar effect. Here's another lettering that I thought was just kind of cool and a basic kind of lettering. So any kind of font, and if you look this up, you'll see usually they'll show the entire alphabet so that you know what each letter might look like if you're trying to write a word or some kind of cool message. Here, that was one. Here's one more, just to give you an idea. And remember, we're going to be today writing either your name, you can do your initials, you can, we're going to probably do this on a small scale, but if you did it larger, you can. You can also do a cool positive vibe message. Something like that would be also great. And this is a lesson I usually do this with my 8th graders, with my oldest students. So some of you are getting to go ahead and do this much younger, which will be fun. And if by the time you get to 8th grade, if we still do this lesson, you're going to be a professional. It's going to be great. Now, I'm going to, I have one couple more actually. Here's one more. That one just says art. See this one, you see this? You could really do all of this with just markers or crayons. So remember that if you don't have all, hi Maggie, tell Caroline I said hi too. And if you don't have all of the different, Maggie's done the project because she's in high school now. She's done my graffiti project. She's going to be a professional. But here, if you look at, this could all be done with markers. And if you do it with marker, you could just flick water or spray water on it afterwards. And that, remember, just like I showed you last time with making the marker have a watercolor effect, where it kind of bleeds in that water-based marker. Make sure it's not a Sharpie. If it's a permanent marker, it's not going to work for that. But if you want the color to have that kind of bleed, almost like right here, you can sprinkle water into it. And if you have watercolors, but no pump, you can, like a cake watercolor, like something like this. You can make some of that, mix it up, and either flick your paintbrush on it and give that effect, or you can paint and then sprinkle salt, regular table salt, onto your paper. And then here's another one. This one's really cool. Look at all this cool, fun stuff. You can also take that, and the salt will soak up the water. Hi, Ellen. And when the water soaks up from the salt, it's also going to give it kind of a cool effect that will almost be similar to what a spray paint can or graffiti might do. Now, if you want, you can be looking up lettering now, but I'm going to actually show you, once I flip my camera, that, yes, Maggie, you are a professional. I love reading these things. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do block letters and bubble letters today, and then you can kind of go from there. And if you have a pencil to start and then a marker would be great. But let me go over the materials again. Remember, it's white paper markers, and then if you had liquid watercolor or you made your own and a used pump spray bottle, something like this. Remember, if you don't have the liquid watercolor or the spray bottle, do not worry, you can keep going with us and get a cool effect, okay? In a second, I'm going to turn the camera, but really quickly, let me show you an example of, let me back up a little. This is one that we did with just the word love. You can do, should be like this. Here I am. Anyway, just teasing. Okay, so we're going to write, this one we did with the word love, okay? And we're going to add different colored paper in the back to really give it that actual tagging type graffiti. Let me put a piece of paper behind it actually so you can really see a good kind of effect, something like that, okay? Now, I do have ones that right here that I just cut out with my first name, Lisa, just to kind of show you what we'll do, but I'm going to show you step by step how to do this, how to get to this point. And now I'm going to attempt to flip my camera, and as many of you know, well, it wasn't last time. Last time we got cut off because of my talking. And the time before that, we actually, well, I dropped the camera twice. So it fell out of the tripod from my lotion fingers. So right now I'm going to carefully do it. I'm going to hold on to the camera while I do it. So close your eyes if you're someone who gets dizzy. And I'm going to do my best to not drop anything. And then we'll go from there. So carefully I'm going to flip the camera. And I'm glad you guys are here joining us. And I'm glad you're here to make art with us right now. Okay, so here I go. I'm moving the camera and I'm going to do it very carefully. I'm holding on. I'm going to make sure that you have a good viewpoint where Ms.A does not drop her camera. And I think it's going to drop, but I'm going to do it very carefully. And I think that's good. Okay, I'm not going to touch it anymore because we know what happens when Ms.A does that. And it's not cool, people. It's not good. Okay, let's make sure you can see. Perfect. Okay, so go ahead and grab out a piece of paper. And I'm going to grab some paper too. I'm just going to grab a sheet of white paper. It can be printer paper. It can be any kind of paper. Even if it's an old piece of newspaper. Why not? Do it right on top of that. Or if it's an old, maybe it's something like how I printed the cool fonts on this side, the different lettering. You could also use the back side of a piece of paper too. It doesn't have to be a new piece of paper. If you're running low on paper, who knows? It's getting crazy, people. So on this one right here, I'm going to show you how to do different types of lettering like this and do your own type of urban street art. Now, I would love to know what some of you are thinking you're going to do. Are you going to do your name like I was going to do here? I'll show you on this one how I did my name. I did even cut out the sections in between. You can do that or you can leave it without. Sometimes those are difficult. I actually did cheat and use an X-Acto knife. So something like this. So some of you might have something like this at home. But if you do, make sure that your parents are helping you do it. And also make sure that you have some kind of cardboard or something underneath it. But for the most part, all you're going to really need are scissors, which reminds me, I need to lean right over here and grab a pair of my scissors. Some of my scissors. Okay, here's a pair. Okay. Oh, here's my other pair. I knew I had scissors. Okay, now next thing we're going to do is we are going to start. So, excuse me. If you have just a piece of paper like this, and you know what? I'm going to put some black paper underneath it just so you can see what I'm doing. Otherwise, my white paper blends in with my paper that I'm using to cover my art table. Ooh, today you can see my pretty flowers. I got these for you on Wednesday, guys. You light the fire while I place the flowers in the vase that you bought today. It's an old song. Parents might know it. All right, guys. So I'm going to use a pencil. Now, it's going to be difficult for you to see what I'm doing in pencil. But I'm going to actually, instead of drawing it in marker first, like I normally would just show you in marker. But in this case, I'm actually going to use the pencil because this is going to help guide you. So if I was to write Lisa, okay, just like I did here, okay, say you're doing a name. I'm going to do L, just write it out regular. And, wow, you really can't see that, but you can see, and I'm going to write my name, I-S-A. And you can see, well, not really, but I wrote it lightly. So go ahead and write your name if you like, or your word, whatever it might be. And then what you do is you trace around with a black marker, with a Sharpie preferably, around your letters. So if you did that, I can go around my letters. Go ahead and start doing this now if you like. And so block letters are going to be square. They're going to go around a letter. Let me actually just show you some other letters. Like let's say I was doing a T. Here's a T in pencil. And then what I do is I trace around that letter. And then I would take an eraser and erase all those pencil lines. And look at me. Fancy lettering already. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do another one here. Let's say I want to do bubble lettering. So if I do in pencil an L, and let's do a T again. Bubble lettering is just where I'm going to trace around that pencil line I did, but instead of straight edges, I'm just going to go ahead and curve. Here you can kind of see my pencil lines. And then take your eraser and go ahead and erase those lines. No one will ever know that we use that as a guideline, and it just looks like I made very beautiful bubble letters. Same as here, where I erased my T and my L, and I have block letters. So a block letter is going to have more of those straight lines and right angles, those corners. Bubble letters are going to have curved lines, curved edges, I should say, curved edges. Now, honestly, it doesn't matter what kind of lettering. Maybe you're going to get fancy like this and do some really cool, funky lettering, and that's cool too. More power to you, people. Now, if I'm going to do mine, I'm going to go ahead really quick, and I'm going to write Lisa. So I'm going to go L. And I'm going to exaggerate my letters maybe. Maybe I want to do an I that's going to overlap. Maybe I want to do something like that. For my S, here's my S. Maybe I'll draw it in pencil first. S's are confusing, so make sure you're careful with the S. Okay. S's, any kind of letter that has a curve like that can get kind of funky. And then I'm going to overlap my A. And then maybe I'm even going to do it my center of my A like this. Something like this is fine. Then you're going to want to start to thicken or widen your edges. So if you have a really fat marker or Sharpie, you can go ahead and color those in like this. And if you have a thin marker, that's fine too. But you can go ahead and take some of the edges and make them fatter, adding more more weight to your line. We talked about weight to our lines last time. Maybe here on my S, I'm going to make this wide, and I'm going to color that in all black. And it's going to start making your font or your lettering very cool. Now, if you need to go and fix something, that's okay. Go back. What are some of the words? I'd like to hear what people are doing. Are you doing your name? What are you writing? What's happening here, people? Just tell me some fun facts. You know how I love to see what people are doing.
Friday.
Today is Friday. Mia just asked me what the day is today. It is hard to keep track. Now, I'm going to switch for a second. And here's one that I started earlier today. Now, I want to show you, after I drew my lines, can you read that says Lisa? I actually added some fun lines around the outside. Let me go back to this one again. And what that means is for graffiti or tagging, a lot of times you have to remember it's coming out of a spray bottle. So you have to think of how people would spray something. Remember how I have my business that's my Urban Dandelion, which is where I recycle, renew stuff, reuse it, and sell it, my flea market business. That we like to call spray paint and rattle cannon. They're like, oh, I just rattle canned it. Love that. Let's make a heart for my eye. And I'm going to make it a little thicker. Maybe I'll go like this, this. Thicken this line here. So you're just kind of adding some accent lines all the way around. Maybe even something like this. How many of you have been doing cool sidewalk art or cool positive signs for your windows, spreading the love? I worked on a painting on my sidewalk for hours yesterday, and I woke up this morning And the rain, even though it wasn't chalk, I actually acrylic painted right onto my sidewalk. It's, some of it bubbled, some of it was looking pretty sad. It looked like someone vandalized it, honestly, but I think it was just the rain, Mother Nature. So I'm going to have to get back to that later on today because it's sunny out. So I'm going to go back to that and fix up, repair what I can. Now, hopefully you have some kind of lettering. And if you don't like what you did the first time, do not be afraid to grab a new sheet of paper. One of the not cool things about e-learning like this is that when people get frustrated, I can't walk around and, come sit with you and help draw a couple lines and get you back on track. So I can't see if that's happening. So if that's happening, remember what Ms.A would do. And I would come and I would give you some motivation and then, help you get redirected and get you back on track. So make sure that you're doing that for me, okay? Make sure, or if you have a sibling and or maybe your mom. Maybe your mom's like, oh my goodness, why doesn't mine look good? Help out your mom. Help her out. Okay, so I'm erasing any pencil lines that I had originally because now I just have this black marker line drawing. And I'm going to actually thicken up a couple more lines just because the weight of the line or the thickness of the line, thickness to thinness in that case, really plays a part when you're tagging or doing cool font lettering like this, okay? And you can also do cool, maybe there's cool kind of drips of paint coming from yours. That's cool too. I had some cool little drips, like the paint is dripping. Maybe I'm going to do one over here too. I'm going to have this one actually look like it's coming right off of the A, okay? So if you can't see that, again, I just added some fun drips. So there we go. Now, next thing you want to do, once you have your black and white drawing, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut out around it. Now, I'm going to leave a little bit of a border because you don't want to cut directly on the line, and I will show you why in a minute. Well, first of all, we don't want to chop off any of our beautiful artwork, of course. And I'm going to round that edge a little. Could you do this in a zigzag kind of line? Almost like I did on my outside here. Do you see how I have more of a jagged edge? Kind of giving that graffiti look. You can do that too on your edge. On this first part, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to round this one. I'm just going to kind of go around my letters. So, now I'm ready. I've gone ahead, and I've cut out my word, Lisa. Okay? Now, you'll see after I cut it out, I'm going to take this edge, and I'm going to line it with black marker. And I'm going to take a black Sharpie. And remember to have, I'm going to move the black paper this time so you can see what I'm doing for this part. And make sure you have either a tablecloth or a placemat or something underneath. Do not get black marker on the kitchen island, people. Because I would love to see what everyone's workstations are like. We got workstations all over our house. We got a puzzle on the dining room table. We have Mr. A's at a desk in the front living room. We got computers and stuff, e-learning happening everywhere. But what I'm doing is I'm going around that edge of my paper, putting that black border. That's going to add to our graffiti look. But make sure there's something underneath, because do you see all that marker? As I take my marker on an angle and draw this line, you really need to make sure that you're not getting marker on your table. Please do not. We've had so many positive messages from our art lessons. We don't want mom texting Ms.A saying, you ruined my family heirloom dining room table. Don't do that. Although, Mom, if that happens, remember Ms.A is pretty good at refinishing things, and I can come over and, not right now, but at some point, and help you fix that table that got ruined from art class. Hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, so now I went around, and you can see if I lay it down, I've created a black border all the way around my lettering. Now, this is where, if you wanted to cut out some of the insides like I did here, and I think, oh yeah, that's good. You can see it from this up in the air. but where I went ahead and I cut out those edges. If you cut out edges, you're going to notice, let me go close. So I didn't cut perfect, and there's going to be some white. Do you see that white there? Or some white. Where else? There's some white up here. Okay. Oh, right here, there's definitely white on that edge. Go ahead and take your marker now if you need to and get rid of any of those white edges that might be showing, because we want it to look almost completely black on those edges. And I am using a permanent marker, guys, for this part. If you don't have a black Sharpie or a permanent marker, you can use a regular one. But because we're going to be adding water for the color with the liquid watercolor, permanent marker works the best for this part, only because you can, when I spray the water on it, the black is not going to bleed, but the color will. It's totally fine not to. Oh, Mia just told me the time, because last week she almost got fired. Almost got fired as my sidekick. Just kidding, me. I would never fire you. She's my bestie. She's my art class sidekick. And she's actually doing it along with us today. She's usually just helping me out. But today she's actually creating some artwork. Okay, so now I've filled those in. I also thickened the edge here. These ones I just added like kind of these cool diagonal lines to give space and form to my letters to almost make them seem a little more 3D. You can do that too. If you do something like that, let's say for an L, if you don't know how to do that, let's say I made a regular block letter L. Then in that case, you can turn it like this, diagonal lines, connect them, and then even a little here. Now that's where you can either add those lines. Now I've made it 3D. Make sure it's on an angle, or you can color them in. So that's how you're going to go ahead and do a block letter that has actual form rather than just being a flat shape. Okay? And we talked about all the elements of art last week, so hopefully you're incorporating all of those 7 elements into your artwork. Now, next thing is, I'm going to show you how to use that liquid watercolor. So if you don't have liquid watercolor or a pump bottle, like I said, remember you can be making it with a marker, an old marker that you either pull the little felt tips out with a pair of pliers and stick it in a little jar or glass of water. If you have jars, you can actually put a lid on it and you can keep them for later. Or you can just make ones that you want to use just for today. And that's fine too. Remember, you can also use food coloring. Remember how I showed you how to use food coloring in the beginning by adding it to some water too. That will also make great liquid watercolor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually spray. Make sure when you're spraying you have a placemat or paper down, because it is going to have overspray. Normally, if you were doing urban street art, you would be using graffiti. You would be using a spray can, and you would be making graffiti, but you'd be using a spray can. Obviously, we're not using spray paint. Most of you, of course, are not even old enough to buy it in Chicago. You got to be 18. They don't even sell it in Chicago. You have to go to the suburbs. But right now, I'm going to show you the same effect. So right now, I just put some fluorescent pink in there, and I'm going to go ahead, and each spray bottle kind of gives a different effect. So right now, I'm just kind of spraying. And that gives a beautiful effect right now. And if you see this, let me lift it a little. It's going to curl a little on me because it's wet. But do you see that cool kind of graffiti spray paint look? Now, you can also blend the colors. I'm going to also put some turquoise. I have like a blue turquoise in this one. I'm going to spray that at the top. Whoa. And guess what? We also did some color mixing there, people. Do you see where the purple started? The pink and the blue made purple. Amazing. Now, when you're doing this, it does need time to dry before you lay the next thing, before you glue the next piece that I'll show you in a second. But right now, we've just given an amazing kind of graffiti look. Now, also, if you spray on paper later, you could do some kind of artwork with all of that negative space, all that overspray. That could be cool. Or even cut some of these or do a torn paper collage where you rip some of those up. That would be so fun too. My video paused for a second, but it's reconnected. Okay, I don't know what happened there. No one touched anything, but I'm glad we're back. And right now you can see that I'm going to put this to the side. And that's how I got that cool kind of graffiti spray paint look. Now, on this one, Alia went ahead and added color first with marker, and then we did the spray. Can you see some of the spray on there too? I'm going to actually spray a little more on there just for fun, okay? So I'm going to do some pink. I'm going to get it on the edges even. Boom, boom, boom. And maybe a little, this color, what do I do here? Magenta? Oh yeah, I like that, okay? So you can add different parts to make it have that cool graffiti look. And I think I'm going to even do a little turquoise just on here in the bottom, on the L. And maybe a little more pink on this side, so I kind of have a cool look. Very nice. So now I've really given it that cool kind of spray paint, urban street art effect. Very cool. Now, I'm going to let that dry for a second. Next thing is I'm going to show you, let me flip this piece of paper over. Oops, let me get a new piece because I have paint everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to take this while my other stuff's drying. And I'm going to show you how you do the background in a second. So if I was to spray this one too, let's go for it. I'm going to do pink at the top. Cool. I'm going to do turquoise at the bottom. Oh, I'm sorry, magenta at the bottom. Look at that. So cool. And then I'm going to do some of the turquoise through the middle, which is going to be awesome. Now, once this dries, if you want to go back over your black lines to pop them out, you can. Because of time, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go for it on my next thing. So I'm going to let this dry to the side. That's curling and drying. And then I'm going to take this piece of paper and flip it really quick. Now, this is still wet, so it might smear. You should wait till it dries. But just so I can show you what happens next, whoops, I'm going to take a glue stick. And you can use liquid glue or glue stick, whatever. Glue stick, of course, is going to dry much quicker. Go around the edges. If you use a glue, liquid glue, make sure you only use a dot. Don't use a lot. Just a dot, not a lot. Just a dot, not a lot. Glue stick, make sure you get those edges. And then I'm going to take a piece of paper, maybe orange here, and I'm going to flip my artwork. I'm going to lay down my name right here. I'm going to carefully tack it down, okay? And I'm actually going to flip it over just because mine's wet and do a nice press over it like so that it's in place. Then, if you want to, you can take a pencil and draw your lines, or you can go ahead and freehand it. What's our time, Mia?
1 hour.
What is it?
1 hour.
Okay, we're still good on time. This time I'm going to kind of follow, leaving an edge around my lettering. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to curve it. This time I'm actually kind of following that outline of my letters. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut all the way around. Looking good. Feeling nice. Hope everybody's doing good. I wish I could be reading the comments right now, but of course I cannot. But I have been rewatching the videos and reading all the comments and sending people little messages back. And thank you, all of you, for sharing your artwork with me. Like, I am like so happy. I'm going to start posting it on Instagram because normally I, of course, share our artwork, but we're not making artwork at school anymore. So this way we can still see what people are making, because I have some of the most beautiful pieces of art that people have shared. Now you can see I went ahead and just cut with just a regular piece of paper, but colored behind it. If you don't have a colored piece of paper, either take some of your liquid spray a white piece, and do the same thing in the background, which would look awesome, and color your own paper. Or take markers and color a sheet of paper. That's fine too. Maybe an old piece of newspaper, whatever you like. Now I'm going to take a marker again. Make sure again you have something underneath to catch the marker as I go around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that edge with my marker. Try to make a nice thick line all the way around the edge of whatever shape that you may have cut behind your lettering. I'm going to keep going. Keep going. And we're going to keep doing this. Here we go. Look at how cool this is. Yeah, baby. Look at that. Alrighty. Now, it really looks cool if you do two colors behind it. So I'm going to take some hot pink, just because that's what I have going on. And I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to flip this over. And I apologize for those of you if I'm going too fast. But remember, you can go back to my Instagram story for the next 24 hours and watch my video if you need to check back and see what was happening. Or if someone else, if you're sharing the video with someone else, they can. And remember, a week ago, I learned how to archive the videos. So I am posting them on Art Class with Ms.A on YouTube. And you can re-watch it there too. Although I look very silly because when you archive it, it doesn't show all of the cool posts you guys are writing. So I just look like a crazy bird doing this, reading, looking crazy, but you guys know what's happening. Now this time, maybe I'm going to add more of a cool kind of diagonally, kind of edgy, oops, I'm going to go a little further, edgy kind of appearance to give that real street art kind of spray paint urban feel. I'm going to cut this off. Remember, if you're cutting, safety first. Remember, you pass the scissors like this with the blade in your hand, and you always cut away from you. Do not cut toward you, please. Safety first, guys. Safety first. And then I'm going to go here. I'm going to keep cutting. And I'm showing, if you see, I'm leaving some of the pink. I'm exposing some of it so that we have this cool kind of jagged edge around. Now, if I take that one, I'm going to crinkle that up, throw that to the side, pick that up later. I'm going to take my black marker again. And if you don't have like these cool, crazy markers like Ms.A has, these fat ones, that's why I'm using a skinny one. I could cheat and use my Magnum, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and use my regular black Sharpie, and I'm going to go around the edge. If you don't have a Sharpie, remember you can do this with a regular black marker and just color in the edges, okay? Go around. And what I'm doing, same thing, remember, making sure there's paper underneath me so that I'm not getting paper all over Grandma's heirloom dining room table, okay? And I'm going to keep going all the way around. Some of you know I always have sounds for my lines. Like when I make a zigzag, it's always like, doot, doot, doot. I have lots of, or a curly Q, I think it's like, lots of different noises for my lines. You guys have noises for your lines? I have songs. I have noises for lines. And if you're using just crayon and marker, that's totally fine too. Remember, you can always go back and get that cool spray paint graffiti effect later. Especially if you're someone who did not have liquid watercolor, maybe you're actually making some right now, okay? And next week, when we try making some other kinds of paints and clay, we're going to use liquid watercolor. So make sure that you either have some food coloring or you have some old markers that you actually started making your own liquid watercolor too. Okay? Ta-da! Okay, so we have our first one that we kind of added more to. We added some more spray. Can you see this good? I'm going to go ahead and, of course, let me show you this one too. This one's basically done. I could add more paint if I wanted. Maybe I want to be like, you know what, maybe I want more blue. Okay, maybe I want it to kind of go on the top too. Maybe I want some more of that pink. I love that pink. Ooh, I sprayed my scissors. Gotta clean those later. And some, what was this one, the magenta? Oh yeah, that is cool. So you can saturate it and get more of that color. And if you want to go back with the black marker, you can. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera really quick so that we don't run out of time again. And I'm going to try not to drop it. Let's see if I did that okay. Looking good. All right, put my scarf on. So I'm looking all fancy. Hardly. Anyway, guys, so today, remember, we did street art. We talked about different kinds of font and lettering. You can do lots of different types of art this way. Not just graffiti artists use lettering. and font and symbols in their artwork. So you can do this to create different types of art. This is the example of the first one we made where we wrote love, and I showed you how to do those black lettering and the bubble lettering. And then here's that final one that we just finished where I actually showed you how to add the different layers behind it to get that really cool kind of effect, that kind of street art urban effect. And let me go closer just so you can really see what that cool paint looks like. If you can't do it like that, you can take a paintbrush with just with regular watercolor and kind of flick it a little on there. Be careful so you're not flicking it all over the house. But you can get something similar to that where it almost looks like paint drips. And that looks really cool too for this. And then this one, of course, I never finished, but you see the effect of that kind of cool spray paint graffiti type look. So guys, next week, remember, try to have some liquid watercolor. Either make it yourself with food coloring, with old markers, and then we're going to try making some clay and other kinds of paint. And we're going to need flour, just like cooking baking flour. We're going to need vegetable oil or canola oil. We need some cream of tartar if you have it. If you don't get cream of tartar, you can still make the clay with us. So do not worry. This is just one way it lasts longer. But I've done a bunch of experimenting. Mia and I have been creating paints and all sorts of goody stuff in the temperas with eggs. But then I had to think of people with egg allergies. And I'm thinking of you, girl. So then we made ones without eggs. We did, I mean, oh my goodness, so much. But I've learned a lot, and I'm going to be able to teach it all to you next week. Flour, water, salt, vegetable oil, and food coloring or some kind of liquid watercolor. So hopefully that you guys had a great time. Hopefully you can keep adding to this. I would love to see your pictures, your artwork. Make sure you post it or hashtag it at art class with Ms.A. Or have your families email it to me, text it to me, however you know me and want to share it to me. I've seen some on Facebook, and I've just been obsessed, loving all of the work, guys. So I'm so proud of you. Stay home, stay safe. I'm glad that we get to meet up this way and still get to see each other. I've even got to been invited on some of your guys' Zooms from your regular classroom teachers that I've got to see people separately, which has been super fun. I love that too. Make sure that you share your artwork with me. And right now I'm going to go ahead and try to archive this again. So I'm going to get real close to the video and I'm going to go ahead and try to save it. But have a great day. And I hope to see you guys again next Wednesday at 12:30. Same bat time, same bat channel. Make sure if you have any of those supplies that I mentioned to get those kind of gathered together. But I will definitely send out a materials list. And I'll make sure that even if you don't have everything, that you're still able to participate, because I've really been trying to do art projects that are for all ages and that are things that you have in your home. All right. Love you guys. Miss you. And I will see you Wednesday. Have a great weekend.